Welcome to the 24th episode of Global Heat Map. It's an initiative by USI of India where we take you through all the important international and strategic events of last 2 weeks. It is to help all the candidates who are appearing for any type of competition where international studies, current affairs or strategic issues are involved. In today's episode, we'll be talking about US-India tariff standoff. India-China relations are looking towards a reset. We will talk about it. How and when can Russia-Ukraine war end? The major question. We'll try and decode that. Operation Gideon Chariot is on in Gaza. We'll decode that as well. And very recently, India tested its first integrated air defense weapon system. USA finally has levied 50% tariffs of India. In these 50%, 25% were the normal tariffs and 25% they have levied for India buying Russian oil. Now, the notification which USA gave to India indicates that USA is having a threat from Russian Federation and therefore this tariff has been levied, which actually makes no sense to anybody in this world, except perhaps some confidants of President Trump. The simple reason, because China buys much more oil than India, European Union buys much more LNG than India, US trade with Russia has increased more than 20% during the same period, and even under President Trump, the US-Russia trade has increased. Also, recently, US is negotiating with Russia for some energy explorations as well. So under these circumstances, sanctions on India or tariffs on India doesn't make sense at all. So India has rightly said that these are unreasonable, unfair, and therefore India has taken a firm stand to stand up against these tariffs. India certainly has certain red lines which have been indicated very clearly to them. In a manner, India cannot compromise on the interest of farmers, fishermen, dairy, and MSMEs. India has the poorest population in terms of per capita GDP amongst G20 countries, and therefore affordability of energy is very important to us. At the same time, India imports more than 80% energy. So therefore, energy availability, energy security, and energy affordability is crucial to India, and therefore India cannot compromise on the sovereign choice of where to buy our energy from on the pressure of United States. And that is why India has taken a strong stand to bear this tariff and look for alternatives. So India is looking for a lot of alternatives in a manner that we are looking at boosting up the domestic consumption. We are also looking at the markets in Russia, in China, in Southeast Asian countries, as well as in Africa and other countries. In fact, 40 countries are under tariff, and therefore a trade between these 40 countries can help us. So we are looking at FTAs. We have already signed it with UK. We are looking at FTAs with EU and many others. In the worst case scenario, it is visualized that India could lose anything up to 0.3% of its GDP growth with a very healthy, and we will still be the fastest growing economy in the world. So it's not going to affect that much as it is made out to be. The pharma products as well as the pharma exports and the exports related to electronics and mobiles going to USA, they are not currently as part of these tariffs. So their export goes as normal. So by and large, if I have to look at as to what is the strategic cause of USA doing such activities, it appears that USA is reasonably threatened by the clout of BRICS. President Trump has been very vocal in saying that BRICS is going to damage their economy in a manner that if they trade amongst themselves, which is about $700 billion, which can increase because they are doing trade worth almost $3 trillion with the United States, all the BRIC countries put together. So in that case, their economic influence goes down. Also, if they are trade in local currencies, then de-dollarization phenomena can also take place. May not be in the near future, but maybe much later. But then that is a danger to USA. Now, President Trump feels that he can't take on China, India, Brazil, and everybody together. So apparently, he has taken on India and Brazil now with 50% tariffs. and with much lesser tariff to China and a lot of concessions to Russia. Maybe he felt that if India gives up and Brazil gives up, then he may be reasonably equipped to handle China thereafter. But as of now, India is not giving up. USA seems to be indicating that there could be negotiations, and India is also open to negotiations. So the future, as we take the stand, may be brighter, number one. And number two, what is important is that the damage caused by tariff is temporary, it is tactical, but a loss of sovereignty to USA and succumbing to US pressure is going to be a strategic damage which India must avoid at any cost. Also, India is looking towards strategic reset as well, in a manner that Prime Minister Modi is also going to China as well as to Russia. So, if we look at India-China reset, we find that very recently Wang Yi visited India. It was also in context of inviting Prime Minister Modi for SCO conference, which Prime Minister Modi is going to be is going there, and it indicates a fair amount of reset. It is also indicative by certain measures which have been taken on ground, like opening of border trade, direct flights have resumed, some visa restrictions have been lifted, Mansarovar Yatra has resumed. At the same time, China has also lifted export curbs on fertilizers, rare earths, magnets, and tunneling machinery. On the border front, which is a major concern between the two countries, 34th WMCC meeting took place in July. In August, we had 24th round of special representative talk, and in that it was decided that there will be two general level mechanisms initiated. One is for delimitations of the border, and the second one is for ensuring the peace and tranquility on the borders. There is also a need to improve the comprehensive CBMs, to improve the CBMs which are presently in place. India is also moving ahead with caution because there are certain areas where Chinese are yet to deliver. A de-escalation has not yet taken place. Their support to Pakistan continues as ever. Their supply of military hardware to Pakistan is still on, and their investments in CPEC are again getting resumed, and also the extension of CPEC in Afghanistan are some of the concerns which India watches very carefully in going ahead with China. But what is important is that we need not believe China, but at the same time, we must have a working relationship with China, because our dependency on raw materials of China and certain technological equipment is quite substantial, and therefore, in our interest, we must get the best out of China. The million-dollar question which everybody is asking is when Russia-Ukraine war is going to stop. The hopes were quite evident after President Trump and President Putin met in Alaska, and thereafter there was a meeting between President Trump and Zelensky, who was accompanied by a whole lot of European Union leaders, but that has not made much progress. The Russian preconditions are very clear. It has to be a neutral Ukraine and complete Donbass land corridor, including Crimea, should be with them. At the same time, they do not want any NATO troops in Ukraine, and that is again a red line for Russia. As of now, the talks between Zelensky and Putin are nowhere in sight. Russia treats Zelensky as an illegitimate leader, although verbally, as per statements, Russia has agreed that they can hold a meeting provided there is substantial background prepared for such a meeting between Zelensky and Putin. But then the fact is, on ground, the things are absolutely different. Almost 99% of Luhansk is with Russia. Almost 70% of Donetsk region is with Russia. And therefore, Russia is in a very strong position on ground. And with that, there is no reason why Russia will compromise on territory, because they hold all the levers of power. So at this point of time, Russia is amenable to some kind of territory swap in a manner that the 30% of Donetsk, which has not been captured, if Ukraine agrees to give that 30%, And in bargain, Russia would give some territory out of Zaporizhia and Kherson back to Ukraine. Then there can be a chance, but as of now, Ukraine, supported by European Union, is going firm that they are not going to cede any inch of territory. Now, if that be the case, then I don't visualize any meeting or any ceasefire happening in near future. At the same time, Russia is making quick gains. They have captured almost 17 villages in August. It has also been reported that Russians have crossed Dnieper River and they've gone the other side of Dnieper River, that is on the Ukrainian side of Dnieper River. Now, that is a reasonable concern for Ukrainians because their defense line has been broken. The war is getting aggressive. The standoff strikes are increasing both sides, and therefore the chances of peace look a little dim. At the same time, Ukraine very recently targeted the nuclear power plant in Kursk. Now that is, and they also targeted Russian pipe. Now, these two are important targets, and that certainly instigated Russia to take some retaliatory action as well. At the same time, in the Russian bombardment, which is quite intense, it is believed that one of the American companies also got damaged. But Russians have clearly said that we don't know that that America had a company there. So it appears that the war is going to continue, and my own assessment is that unless Russia gets complete Donbass, whether it is by aggressive military action or by negotiations, the war is unlikely to stop. The tariffs, the sanctions, and the mediations, they will not be able to end the war. It will only end when their basic aim and the causes of war are met in some manner or the other, and Russia gets Donbass. Before that, I don't think Russia is going to do any kind of ceasefire. Israel has launched Operation Gideon Chariot. This is an operation for taking over the Gaza city as well as taking over the remaining part of Gaza which have not been attacked so far. Now, this is a physical attack which is being launched. There is fair amount of criticism. I believe UNSC has also criticized and said that the aid must resume and ceasefire. Aid must resume without any conditions, and ceasefire should be implemented. At the same time, Israel is going ahead. The ceasefire is not making any headway. The Israelis insist that Hamas should lay down arms, they should surrender and release all hostages. So even UNSC resolution says that the ceasefire should happen and all hostages must be released, and Israel must go out of there, Gaza, and it should be a two-state solution. That is what UNSC has been insisting. But Israel, supported by US, has a different design. It appears that the negotiations which were on, they have also not made any headway, in a manner that although Hamas agreed for a 60-day ceasefire and giving back 28 hostages, that is 10 alive and 18 bodies, but that Israelis have not accepted that, and Israelis have gone ahead with the kind of assault which they are doing. A fair amount of casualties have taken place. Gaza is under famine now, officially declared by United Nations. 63,000 civilians have been killed, 250 journalists have been killed, and more than 1,000 people have been killed while collecting food and aid. Now that has caused a fair amount of criticism of Israel all over the world. And if we have to look at certain awkward incidents which have taken place in the recent past, there was a hospital which was attacked where 20 civilians died, and 5 of them were journalists of various Western media as well. Although Israel said that it was an accident and they are investigating, but then the fact is that Israel has caused a fair amount of civilian casualties, and the whole world rightly is calling it as genocide. Netanyahu, if you have to look at his intentions, apparently he want the war to stop, because he thinks that if the war stops, he loses his chair, number one. And number two, he as well as hardliners, they have their aim of greater Israel. That means everything from Jordan River to sea should belong to Israel, and Palestinians should be second-class citizen. And the effort which they are trying to make is that make the two-state solution absolutely unviable. So even if people recognize a two-state solution, it cannot be implemented on ground, and that is the kind of perhaps damage which they are causing on ground. The whole world seems to be watching it silently in a manner that only United States is helping Israel, but others have not been able to perhaps convince either USA or Israel not to continue with this kind of genocide. US stance is that the military actions are being governed by Israel, so they have no role to play there. But then no military action can take place unless US supplies all the military hardware to Israel. So US is also complicit in this. Also, we find some scant resistance in a manner that Houthis have fired on Israel. They recently fired a MIRV missile on Israel, and Israel was reasonably alarmed because it did beat their Iron Dome system, although they also launched fair amount of airstrikes on them. In addition to that, Netanyahu is also facing a fair amount of internal opposition from the army, from other sections, and most importantly, from the families of the hostages. So it's not an easy sale for Netanyahu too, but then the fact is the war is on, and I don't think the hardliners in Israel are going to stop this till the time USA tells them to stop it. Otherwise, everybody else has done it, has said so, but Israel is just not listening to anybody else. Very recently, India tested its first integrated air defense weapon system, which is totally indigenous. It has QRSAM, which is about 30 odd kilometers of range, and any aircraft, helicopter or drone within this range, it can destroy. It is also integrated very well with the very short range air defense systems, which is a man-portable system, kilometers range, and also it is integrated with laser-based direct energy weapon, which can fire projectiles up to 1 to 2 kilometers. Now, this all consists of a air defense umbrella in a manner that any projectile which is coming can be engaged with the right kind of, because certain small drones coming from the adversary do not require a costly missile to destroy it, and therefore if the direct energy weapons can destroy it, then it is much more cost effective. In fact, in Op Sindoor, we demonstrated these capabilities in a manner that the low-cost weapons, low-cost drones were being destroyed by our legacy weapons like L-70 guns, Zeus, Iglas, Shilkas. We also have the short-range and medium-range missiles like Strela, Akash, Barak, Pichora, Quadrat, and S-400 was a long-range one, which goes up to 400 kilometers, destroying 30 targets at the same time. And all these, and also we also had the air defense aircrafts. So all this was very well integrated, and we also had for this integration and control and reporting, we had the Akash system, which was very effective in Operation Sindoor. At the same time, we also have the integrated air command and control system, which controls all the entire airspace and all the assets which are being employed in the airspace at that point of time. So India, with the indigenous capability and a fair amount of innovations, has been able to master the kind of air defense systems which we have adopted. And also, this can well be taken as the first step to what Prime Minister Modi had mentioned, that we are looking towards Sudarshan Chakra. So this could be the first step in Sudarshan Chakra, which is going to be a total AD shield and AD umbrella to protect our skies from any hostile projectile. Even in capacity building, India also commissioned two frigates which were also indigenously developed, that is INS Udaygiri and INS Himgiri, which also add on to the maritime power of India. So these were the events which happened in last 2 weeks. We will come back to you again after 2 weeks with all the events which happened in next 2 weeks. Thank you very much.